are better than one. It's to help address needs faster, efficiently. So that's the fishiness of it. So going back to the fight, so Cruz called it out. She's calling it like she sees it. She's saying, this is, she wants legitimate recovery efforts, and perhaps she's troubled by the small size of the company. She wants, she wants it to be ethical. Mm-hmm. And, she's had her own issues with the Trump administration. Mm-hmm. And has not been shy about making those vocal. So she calls out Whitefish. So they go back and forth. As I was reading, they gave a statement. She said, well, you have a problem with the fact that I have an opinion. And Whitefish basically went nuts after that and said, we've got 44 linemen rebuilding power lines in your city and 40 more men just arrived. Do you want us to send them back or keep working? What? Send them back? Are you actually threatening to pull relief efforts because the mayor of this town or city simply wants it to be a proper selection process?
Yeah.
So, only 25% of people in Puerto Rico have power at this point. I mean, and we heard Rosa talking about it in this first hour, that it's an absolute crisis there.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And it's a disappointment that this is what, now there's bickering over this, and, it was shady to begin with.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Oh, boy. Indeed it is. All right, 866-99-SIRIUS, 866-997-4748, the number to call. We've got a full house this hour. We're going to first be joined now by Atima Omara of the DNC. Am I pronouncing your name correctly?
Yes, you are.
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm great. How are you doing?
Just fine. Pleasure to have you on board with us. You're here to talk to us about how we're doing in Virginia, right, Atima?
Of course. Yes. Yes.
How are we looking? How are things looking?
Well, as Virginia is always the case, we did well last year. We were 5 points ahead and won, and so it's a purple state. I've lived here all my life when it used to be a very red state, and Democrats here and the demographics have also changed, where it's gotten easier to turn the state blue, but it's still a fight to the finish. So it's always, every poll that comes out either has him 2 points ahead, 1 point ahead. Sometimes Gillespie's up by a point. So these final days are crucial with the door knocking and everything that's coming up.
So we're within the margin of error.
We are very much within the margin of error. Yep.
I must admit, I'm a little surprised by that. Considering the events of Charlottesville. And by the way, I didn't mention, folks, Atima is president of the Young Democrats.
I used to be.
You're former president of Young Democrats.
Yes, I'm now former.
Okay, I'm sorry. Well, see, I still got you young.
Yeah, I'm still
young. I'm sorry, you're president emeritus. Okay,
yes.
we got it right. Okay.
Yeah.
With what happened in Charlottesville, I would have thought that we'd be have a pretty commanding lead.
So it's interesting with the state of Virginia. If you ever look at a map, like a 2016 map, you'll see pretty much why it is the way it is with the margin of error. So you've got Northern Virginia, Arlington, Fairfax, Prince William, Alexandria, all those areas like right outside of D.C. And then it gets red for a little bit, and then you get down to Charlottesville, which actually is a very blue city, with I think almost 90-something% for Bernie in the primary last year. Then you have Richmond, our capital, that turns blue. You get down to the coastal area, Tidewater, Hampton Roads, we call it, and that's a combination of areas where it's military, and a lot of evangelical Christians. Bob McDonnell, our former governor, is from that area. And there's patches of blue, like you get down to like Hampton University, some of those HBCU areas, very blue. You get to Virginia Beach, it gets a little redder. And and then like the rest of the state though is red there. South side, you go into coal country, that's pretty much red except for places like Blacksburg and Roanoke City. So what ends up happening is we spent a lot of time trying to run up the score on what people call the 95-64 corridor, where a lot of those voters who are inclined to vote Democrat live, and then some of those folks who live in Southwest Virginia, trying to make sure, those folks are turning out as well. So that's why it's always a fight all of the time. And I mean, in the primary, Corey Stewart, who has basically been a banner waiver for, the Confederate flag and statue's cause, almost took out Ed Gillespie. So it's really a moral fight here in Virginia for our values. I look at North Carolina and I say, there, but for the grace of God goes Virginia, because, if we had had a Republican governor in this last, 4 years, we'd have been fighting some of the same fights that they've been fighting down there.
Yeah. The bottom line is, Atima Omara with us, folks, the bottom line is that if we turn out to vote, we'll win. That's always the case, right?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And I mentioned Charlottesville. I had, I guess, to come to the revelation on yesterday that as many people who may be mobilized to vote in reaction to Charlottesville, there are also those who will be suppressed, who will be discouraged because of Charlottesville, and
Yeah.
that's real. That happens.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the Minnesota every day, and you saw it happen in Charlottesville. We almost had a similar thing go down in Richmond. We've had some of the folks who led that first awful rally that ended up with people down in Charlottesville, and they've come back since then. It's a shame because it's a lovely town. There's a great progressive activist town, has a great base there. And most of the people who were involved in that rally were people who were not even from Charlottesville. And so, there's this real concern with, looking at the White House, the state of the Republican Party, and then what happened in Charlottesville, that, those forces are overwhelming. But I think, folks are just as determined to turn out to vote, to get candidates in there who are going to actually represent the values that we do believe, the right direction that Virginia should be going in. And that's Ralph Northern, and that's this great young African-American candidate, Justin Fairfax, who's running the lieutenant governor.
Yeah.
And Mark Herring, who's been really, holding the Trump administration to account and doing some great stuff, trying to protect EPA and a lot of other issues.
So we had a little controversy with Fairfax. I know two controversies. One, his lieutenant governor opponent, Gillespie's running mate, questioned his intelligence. But then you had Atima Omara with his folks, President Emeritus of Young Democrats in Virginia. You live in Virginia, right?
I live in Virginia.
Yes, what I thought. You were saying we as if you. So, also you had, I think, one of the unions that wanted to support Northam, and not Justin Fairfax, and that got a little bit of pickup in the news, right? But I don't know whether that's had any real impact.
It definitely, it got caught on social media, and they supported, Ralph, and they supported the AG, Mark Herring, who's running again, and some of the lit that they were doing reflected that. Unfortunately, it wasn't clear because it looked very close to the mail pieces that the party, the coordinated campaign for all three candidates, is carrying. And so there was a lot of concern and anger about that. Now, Love Labor is allowed to, like any other endorsing organization, to endorse who they want to.
Right.
The concern was specifically how it looks when there's identical mail pieces going especially in the areas where there's a lot of African American communities, where the lieutenant, the African American lieutenant governor candidate is missing. That has since been rectified, and they'll be figuring out ways to reach out to their members to support candidates that they've endorsed. But that was sort of a little bit of the concern there.
Yeah. Folks, bottom line is we got to get out to vote. Everybody knows somebody in Virginia. Reach out to them. Tell them to get their vote on in November. This is a very important race. We got to win Virginia. Atima Omara is the president emeritus of the Young Democrats. Atima, it's a pleasure to have you on with us, and we're hoping we can get this done. Okay.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
All right. Take care now. Pleasure to meet you. Thanks for joining us.
Right.
All right, folks. You know what time it is. It's Jorge Jueves. That's what day of the week it is. As we invite all of our listeners on the Pitbull channels, we simulcast on channel 14. Those of you on social media can't hear the music because we can play music over social media. The Pitbull music. But if you're listening on Pitbull on Sirius XM 127, you can hear the music.
Then you know what you're signed up for.
But if you're looking at us on social media, you just see us moving around and wiggling and whatnot.
Can you imagine if we become a meme, like people on YouTube just like dubstep or auto-tune whatever song they want underneath us dancing, and then we become this viral sensation.
We should do a boomerang. Do a boomerang. You got boomerang on your phone?
Oh, that'd be kind of cool.
Andrew, aren't you a millennial?
I know.
You don't have any lesbian farmer boomerang on your...
No, I don't.
You know about that. I told you about that.
Yeah, I remember that. That's pretty cool.
Great, I'm good.
So those are the groups, the chat rooms you reside in mostly.
All people are going to think around the office is that I'm friends with a bunch of lesbian farmers and that I was a women and gender studies major in college.
It means you're progressive.
Well, I guess so. I'm not going to object to this caricature that's being formed.
I've always wondered who was like a woman, because I was a Mexican American studies major, and so all the ones of like the obscure studies, like the women's studies, the queer studies, the Mexican American studies, the African American studies, the Latin American studies, we all sort of looked at each other and we thought, all right, like it's gonna be tough to get a job after this, but it's okay. Like we're in this together, and we see you, and we're as woke as one could possibly
And
be.
here we all are.
And here we are.
Well, here the two of us are.
That's like
I was a women's studies track.
Oh, hey.
So I was the journalism major on the track of women's studies. So yeah, we are all gathered here today.
Gathered here today talking about minorities.
And we're successful, so take that.
Hey.
And we're doing work in our field. Take that.
Are we successful though? Should we have the existential comment? Because we weren't even sure who Britney is.
What is Britney?
Right.
What
so
is
we got deep for a
What
minute.
is success? How do we measure?
She got that voice, y'all. She could do that. She could do one of them shows.
Sounds a little wrong.
Like
going over Pitbull,
Delilah
though.
from 106.7, the New York.
Oh my God, I love Delilah.
I mean, too. I freaking love Delilah.
I always wanted to do a dedication just so I could hear Delilah say, like, you know.
Say like so.
I wanted to just play this out there for all of you out there who are just driving alone and needed to hear this as a pick-me-up.
Oh my God, that's so Delilah.
Right? Was like,
I
okay,
love
Delilah.
her.
Well, the sad part about Delilah is she's taking a break because her son committed suicide.
Oh
Yeah.
No, I didn't know that.
And it's to sort of not bring this to a screeching halt. Sorry, Pitbull, that's playing on the air. But it's part of this growing epidemic that I think a lot of people haven't been able to talk about is because of online. I mean, this is me sort of speculating because I don't know if this had anything to do with this particular moment, but the national narrative, especially for those who are vulnerable teens who are subject to bullying, especially when you have online trolls being as the way that they are, when you have people at school being just as open and outspoken as they've ever been before to just talk about whatever they want to talk about.
Right.
It's a tough environment for kids. And, you know, when I went home a couple weeks ago, I was speaking to some of my students, my sister's high school students, and they have this thing called Impact Week where they dedicate a day of the week. Is like, okay, one of these is making sure that you're good to your LGBTQ peers. This day is good to make sure that you're good for your female peers. This one's making sure that you're good to anybody else who might be seen as subject to bigotry, discrimination because of whoever they are. And the fact that a high school has to do that is proof in and of itself that it's tough to be a kid right now. And, add in mental health and add in any other things that might be factoring in. It's something that I think needs to be talked about, because people's health really is at stake in this weirdness that is America that we're still even trying to gauge. Which I have to say, the reason I'm late is because I was being paid by the Hillary Clinton campaign to collect opposition research.
I know that's
It's
right.
her
For
birthday.
Donald Trump. It is her birthday, and everyone's talking about how nobody in the campaign has
Today's her
chosen to delete the tweet from
Oh,
last
yeah,
year that was
well.
like, "Happy birthday to our future president."
I have seen a few retweets of that, and it's
Like, what could have been?
Yeah.
You interviewed her on her birthday
On her
last
birthday,
year.
1 year ago.
That's crazy.
And when I saw her recently at MSNBC in the past month, she remembers, yeah, I was on your show.
She definitely remembers when I picked up the phone for it, though.
She's like, your voice sounds familiar. Are you like Delilah? Are you the girl who does those affirmations?
Yo, I would be out of here in a second if someone let me be Delilah.
I know.
Sorry, Mark. I just
think-
want
I
to
think the
soothe.
truth
I don't
just
think Mark
came out.
knows who Delilah is.
I don't.
What?
This is local radio, right?
Yeah, it's in New York.
But she's it's like a syndicated voice who's.
Why don't you come be on camera with us?
I'm good over
People
here.
want to see you.
No, they don't. You guys are you got enough to fill the camera over there.
Has Delilah ever been on camera?
Because I want y'all to see her physical movements, what she just did. What she did. I would be out of here. I mean, she literally did it. I'd be out of here. So no, that needs to be on camera, please.
I'm good.
She's good. She don't want to
She's
come on
good.
camera, y'all.
It's because then she'll be attached to the person who's collecting opposition research on Donald Trump's campaign.
Exactly.
Is that not the biggest load of crap you've ever seen? Like, that people are trying to make this a story. That people are still using the phrase Clinton campaign and Trump campaign, and that it's like, dude, we're almost a year after this whole thing happened,
Oh my
and you
God.
want to open an investigation into Clinton again? You want to talk about Obama again? You're not thinking about, Betsy DeVos trying to rescind 72 guidelines when it comes to disabled students and their rights? No one's talking about this whole Whitefish electricity company
You just
that
was
has,
talking about that before you came in.
yeah, 2 employees. You give them $300 million to give all the electricity back to Puerto Rico without any sort of idea, knowing that this company might have ties to the Interior Secretary, who, by the way, isn't there a story now that they want to charge like 70-something bucks in order to go to a lot of these public national parks that, yeah, everybody wants you to pay all this money to go to our nation's wonderful protected lands. And that's just one of the things that's been happening this week.
So on the dossier,
Yeah.
Marcos and I talked about this in the last hour.
Mm-hmm. It's
And
covered
we,
in
went,
pee.
and we went through the timeline.
Yeah.
The Bush Super PAC at first helped finance the dossier,
Mm-hmm.
which again is interesting. People do opposition research. People don't pay for scandal. Like, you can't find somebody and say, let me pay them to get a golden shower on Trump.
Yeah.
They were doing opposition research and then stumbled upon this.
Yeah.
And everyone was like, whoa. But because it was so salacious,
Mhm.
that's why it wasn't used.
Yeah.
Because they couldn't verify it. So everybody's still curious about, well, what is this? So apparently the Clinton campaign and the DNC pick it up. That's the allegation. They haven't confirmed or denied it.
Yeah.
But let's assume they did. Opposition research, everybody does it. Trump was doing it. They went up in Trump Tower. But again, people saw this and were like, this is a little bit more than opposition research.
Yeah.
And McCain got it too. Remember?
Mm-hmm.
Because he's the one that turned it in, I think, to the FBI. Check me on that, y'all. McCain got it and turned it in. So then the FBI's like, whoa. What is this? They offer to pay for it because they want Steele
Mm-hmm.
to finish his dossier and the
Yeah.
research. Why? Because it's big in opposition research now. He is saying that the president of the United States, Donald Jackass Trump, is compromised.
Yeah.
Now, that's a pretty big deal. When
That is
you
a
run
big
for
deal.
president, you can't just run up and run for president. The FBI is going to investigate you. They're going to come to you and say, listen, Jorge,
Those skeletons, they're there.
But not only that, just the legality of it, because they do check your citizenship.
Mm-hmm.
They don't wait for you to be inaugurated and then.
How is that possible though? If Barack Obama wasn't born here, Mark,
right.
And they clearly don't check.
And that's what should have been said. But that's not what I'm talking about. The Steele dossier, McCain. Yeah. So, but that should have ended that argument right away, because that was already vetted by law enforcement and the federal government.
Yeah.
So law enforcement and federal government gets a tip that he's compromised. They want to pay for it. The only reason they didn't was because it went public.
Yeah.
And I guess they didn't like the optics, that's the popular term today. But Hillary Clinton, if they paid for it, they didn't use it.
Yeah.
So you complaining out loud about something that your opposition didn't even use against you. It's came out organically on its own and has gone viral.
Yeah. Without people coming to the opposite part of it, when that, hi, don't you remember that Donald, Jr. was supposed to meet with this Russian, Kremlin-connected lawyer who was supposedly going to give him all this damaging information on Hillary Clinton, but then the conversation turned to Russian adoptions? Question mark? Yeah, no.
McCain gave. Well, now, what does it say? James Comey, the former FBI director whose firing by Mr. Trump prompted the appointment of a special counsel to oversee the Justice Department's Russia investigation, received a copy of the memos. These are the Steele memos? After Election Day from John McCain, right. Correct. Mr. McCain had dispatched David Kramer, a former top State Department official, to obtain the dossier directly from Mr. Steele. So that's one of the reasons why he's beefing with John McCain.
Mm-hmm.
So watch this. Let's talk about compromise.
Yeah.
Because that's the key word. I know everybody, golden shower is fascinating, but let's talk about compromise.
Mm-hmm.
He has information that he can use to discredit Trump, right? That's what compromise is. He's compromised. Now, the CIA has done that. Putin is doing what countries do, but he just may be a little bit better at it.
Yeah.
So what did he do? He knocked out 2 presidents. He knocked out Hillary Clinton. And now, if he wants to pull that trigger, he can knock out Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
And then you watch The Americans.
No, but everyone says I should, especially now that everything's going on.
They probably have people who have moved. Brittany might be a Russian. We don't know. She might be an undercover Russian.
She has that blonde hair.
But you know what they do? They come here and like they'll send it here, and they'll even have children. And so it's generations of people here.
Wasn't there that story that came out about there was a Russian spy who was trying to get really close in with Hillary Clinton during her State Department run?
I missed that.
And she eventually got caught, and then they deported her and fired her, and they said, "Oh, what are you doing?" But this was like in 2009.
Yeah, right. Manny's got this too, Manny, because I haven't reported on this yet today, but this came out yesterday when Manny's about to tell us.
Right.
Manny in Connecticut. Go ahead, man. You're on with Jorge. It's Jorge Olabares. Hola, ¿qué tal? What's up?
It's boom. That's what it is. Boom. That's what it is. Cambridge Analytica. Proof of collusion. Absolute proof of collusion. And why am I saying that? Okay? I'm going to give you an analogy. Okay? Cambridge Analytica admitted that they were contacting Julian Assange of WikiLeaks, who is a known Russian agent. Okay? CIA said Russian agent. WikiLeaks, Russian agents. Okay? So they admitted, and then Assange is all like, "Oh, well, I didn't give him anything. I didn't do it." Now, unfortunately, the exact issue here, right, is if I contract you, Mark, I go to you, and I'm on tape, and I say, "I want to kill someone," and Mark's like, let me think about it. And then, like 2 days later, you come back and say, "Nah, you know what? I don't want to kill anybody." Guess what? You've committed a crime because you have expressed intent to break the law.
Yeah.
Okay? Yeah. That is attempted murder.
Right.
All right? So guess what? We've got collusion, baby. There it is, right there. And now they're trying to run from Cambridge Analytica. I don't know who Cambridge Analytica is. I don't know who they are. Dude, you paid them $6.5 million to run your online social media campaign. Brad Parscale, you hired him to run the campaign. You gave his company $88 million to do it. So you have motive, you have intent, and you have payments. Done. Over. You are in jail. You are colluding.
Yeah.
And, and the other thing, I want to make a point about this dossier bullshit. Okay, number one, that's totally a distraction. They're trying not to get you to talk about this, and the people they paid were foreign agents. Okay, they were from other countries. That's illegal. The people that Hillary may or may not have paid were American citizens who are allowed to do Oppo research. So guess what? You can shut the fuck up.
I love Manny.
I know, Manny, you're the best. Can we just
you ain't been interrupted, my brother. You just broke it all down. Yeah, I don't. This is getting messier. Wait a minute. Can I add something, Manny? Would you allow me to do that?
Yeah.
Can I add something? Now let's refresh our memory.
Yes.
Mark Warner and the Republican counterpart chair of Senate Intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
Is that intelligence or foreign? I don't know. I get them all confused.
Yeah, foreign.
What's the guy who's with him? His counterpart, Burr.
Burr. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Remember they had that press conference 2 or 3 weeks ago. We can't find Charles Steele. We've been trying to reach him, and he won't respond. Right? And then somebody said, "Well, that's not true. He's tried." So Mueller calls the two of them, Manny, and Jorge, and Brittany and Andrew and everybody, and says, "Don't worry, I got this." He flies to London to sit down with Steele in 48 hours. Comes back and says, "What you need?" We just talked to him. The special counsel flew to London to meet with Charles Steele. Now, does that sound like just some trivial opposition research paid for by Hillary Clinton? Isn't that kind of beyond? Are we beyond that now?
Yeah.
It's. Let me tell you something. It's the end of the end. He knows it.
Right.
Everyone knows it.
Right.
Jeff Flake knows it.
And
That's
the
why
other
he's
thing
leaving.
is,
Jeff Flake, no,
And the other
right?
thing-
He's Flake and Corker.
I know.
When you say them together, don't they sound like cereal? Flake and Corker. Did you say that? I couldn't remember who said that to me. You said it.
A bowl.
Well, you're not on camera,
Flaky
so you didn't
Corkers.
really say it. We don't know if you're really Brittany, and we don't know if you're really here.
Sean said it, so he's taking.
So
he's
you didn't know- you
What's
don't
it? Bro appropriating?
So is Sean
Bro
stealing from you?
appropriation from all of y'all. I said it yesterday while we were in this room, and then I said it again upstairs by our desks. So don't.
Well,
even.
I heard Sean say it, so I'm going to give the man the credit.
That sounds like a Russian agent talking.
Ooh.
I think I'm just gonna leave and let you guys do this without me. Then you know what?
Well, you are
Piss
anyway.
off.
You ain't on You won't come on the camera. You're doing it anyway. But you see what I'm saying, Manny? So you and not to mention when you do opposition research, you can't say, "Hey, go find somebody who's got a golden shower tape." I mean, because nobody.
Yeah.
Nobody. You.
well, no, they do that. Right. How many times has that guy from Hustler magazine said, "I'll give you $10 million to get compromising," blah blah blah?
Yeah.
They didn't pay nobody.
Right.
It's because that's not how you do it.
Yeah.
That's not how you do it.
Yeah.
You know, and there is one other guy, and I'm totally forgetting his name, but it's a really important story that's also tied in with Cambridge. He's a guy who committed suicide, supposedly, who was part of the company that was associated with Cambridge, and I'm totally forgetting this guy's name, and I'm kicking myself in the head. That guy, they've subpoenaed his firm's records because they think he left some information about exactly how the exchange of money and the deal went down, about how that whole thing worked out, and he quote unquote committed suicide, and there Mueller's looking into his stuff now, and that tells me that he thinks that there was foul play.
Yeah.
He's involved with that stuff too, and I wish I remember the guy's name because I can't remember the guy's name. Anyway, and I'm driving, and I don't want to drive into the.
You all worked up driving,
I
man.
know.
We see you. We see you, dude. We
I
see
mean,
you.
I'm just, you know what? I'm so ready. I'm ready. And I wish I remember the guy's name because
Get ready for, as Maxine says, get ready for
And
impeachment.
I'm driving, and I don't want to drive into the.
You all worked up driving,
I'm
man.
going to jail
We see you. We see you, dude.
It's going to go with
We see you.
It's gonna be, you know what? I'm so ready. I'm ready. I'm ready. I wish I remember you guys.
Get ready for, as Maxine says, get ready for impeachment.
I'm driving and I don't want to drive you.
You all worked up driving, man. We see you. We see you, dude.
It's gonna go with you. I'm gonna be, you know what? I'm so ready. I'm ready. I'm ready. I wish I remember you guys.
Get ready for, as Maxine says, get ready for impeachment.
I'm driving and I don't want to drive you.
You all worked up driving, man. We see you. We see you, dude.
It's gonna go with you. I'm gonna be, you know what? I'm so ready. I'm ready. I'm ready. I wish I remember you guys.
Get ready for, as Maxine says, get ready for impeachment.
I'm driving and I don't want to drive you.
You all worked up driving, man. We see you. We see you, dude.
It's gonna go with you. I'm gonna be, you know what? I'm so ready. I'm ready. I'm ready. I wish I remember you guys.
Get ready for, as Maxine says, get ready for impeachment.
I'm driving and I don't want to drive you.
You all worked up driving, man. We see you. We see you, dude.
It's gonna go with you. I'm gonna be, you know what? I'm so ready. I'm ready. I'm ready. I wish I remember you guys.
Get ready for, as Maxine says, get ready for impeachment.
I'm driving and I don't want to drive you.
You all worked up driving, man. We see you. We see you, dude.
It's gonna go with you. I'm gonna be, you know what? I'm so ready. I'm ready. I'm ready. I wish I remember you guys.
Get ready for, as Maxine says, get ready for impeachment.
I'm driving and I don't want to drive you.
You all worked up driving, man. We see you. We see you, dude.
It's gonna go with you. I'm gonna be, you know what? I'm so ready. I'm ready. I'm ready. I wish I remember you guys.
Get ready for, as Maxine says, get ready for impeachment.
I'm driving and I don't want to drive you.
You all worked up driving, man. We see you. We see you, dude.
It's gonna go with you. I'm gonna be, you know what? I'm so ready. I'm ready. I'm ready. I wish I remember you guys.
Get ready for, as Maxine says, get ready for impeachment.
I'm driving and I don't want to drive you.
You all worked up driving, man. We see you. We see you, dude.
It's gonna go with you. I'm gonna be, you know what? I'm so ready. I'm ready. I'm ready. I wish I remember you guys.
Get ready for, as Maxine says, get ready for impeachment.
I'm driving and I don't want to drive you.
You all worked up driving, man. We see you. We see you, dude.
It's gonna go with you. I'm gonna be, you know what? I'm so ready. I'm ready. I'm ready. I wish I remember you guys.
Get ready for, as Maxine says, get ready for impeachment.
I'm driving and I don't want to drive you.
You all worked up driving, man. We see you. We see you, dude.
It's gonna go with you. I'm gonna be, you know what? I'm so ready. I'm ready. I'm ready. I wish I remember you guys.
Get ready for, as Maxine says, get ready for impeachment.
I'm driving and I don't want to drive you.
You all worked up driving, man. We see you. We see you, dude.
It's gonna go with you. I'm gonna be, you know what? I'm so ready. I'm ready. I'm ready. I wish I remember you guys.
Get ready for, as Maxine says, get ready for impeachment.
I'm driving and I don't want to drive you.
You all worked up driving, man. We see you. We see you, dude.
It's gonna go with you. I'm gonna be, you know what? I'm so ready. I'm ready. I'm ready. I wish I remember you guys.
Get ready for, as Maxine says, get ready for impeachment.
I'm driving and I don't want to drive you.
You all worked up driving, man. We see you. We see you, dude.
It's gonna go with you. I'm gonna be, you know what? I'm so ready. I'm ready. I'm ready. I wish I remember you guys.
Get ready for, as Maxine says, get ready for impeachment.
I'm driving and I don't want to drive you.
You all worked up driving, man. We see you. We see you, dude.
It's gonna go with you. I'm gonna be, you know what? I'm so ready. I'm ready. I'm ready. I wish I remember you guys.
Get ready for, as Maxine says, get ready for impeachment.
I'm driving and I don't want to drive you.
You all worked up driving, man. We see you. We see you, dude.
It's gonna go with you. I'm gonna be, you know what? I'm so ready. I'm ready. I'm ready. I wish I remember you guys.
Get ready for, as Maxine says, get ready for impeachment.
I'm driving and I don't want to drive you.
You all worked up driving, man. We see you. We see you, dude.
It's gonna go with you. I'm gonna be, you know what? I'm so ready. I'm ready. I'm ready. I wish I remember you guys.
Get ready for, as Maxine says, get ready for impeachment.
I'm driving and I don't want to drive you.
You all worked up driving, man. We see you. We see you, dude.
It's gonna go with you. I'm gonna be, you know what? I'm so ready. I'm ready. I'm ready. I wish I remember you guys.
Get ready for, as Maxine says, get ready for impeachment.
I'm driving and I don't want to drive you.
You all worked up driving, man. We see you. We see you, dude.
It's gonna go with you. I'm gonna be, you know what? I'm so ready. I'm ready. I'm ready. I wish I remember you guys.
Get ready for, as Maxine says, get ready for impeachment.
I'm driving and I don't want to drive you.
You all worked up driving, man. We see you. We see you, dude.
It's gonna go with you. I'm gonna be, you know what? I'm so ready. I'm ready. I'm ready. I wish I remember you guys.
Get ready for, as Maxine says, get ready for impeachment.
I'm driving and I don't want to drive you.
You all worked up driving, man. We see you. We see you, dude.
It's gonna go with you. I'm gonna be, you know what? I'm so ready. I'm ready. I'm ready. I wish I remember you guys.
Get ready for, as Maxine says, get ready for impeachment.
I'm driving and I don't want to drive you.
You all worked up driving, man. We see you. We see you, dude.
It's gonna go with you.
That's it. I'm gonna be on one soldier. I'm ready. I'm ready. I wish I remember that thing coming up. Get ready for it. Magazine said every week I'm driving it and I want to buy it. I'm all ready to drive on it. Let me see you. Let me see you. That's it. I'm gonna be on one soldier. I'm ready. I'm ready. I wish I remember that thing coming up. Get ready for it. Magazine said every week I'm driving it and I want to buy it. I'm all ready to drive on it. Let me see you. Let me see you. That's it. That's it. I'm gonna be on one soldier. I'm ready. I'm ready. I wish I remember that thing coming up. Get ready for it. Magazine said every week I'm driving it and I want to buy it. I'm all ready to drive on it. Let me see you. Let me see you. That's it. That's it. I'm gonna be on one soldier. I'm ready. I'm ready. I wish I remember that thing coming up. Get ready for it. Magazine said every week I'm driving it and I want to buy it. I'm all ready to drive on it. Let me see you. Let me see you. That's it. That's it. I'm gonna be on one soldier. I'm ready. I'm ready. I wish I remember that thing coming up. Get ready for it. Magazine said every week I'm driving it and I want to buy it. I'm all ready to drive on it. Let me see you. Let me see you. That's it. That's it. I'm gonna be on one soldier. I'm ready. I'm ready. I wish I remember that thing coming up. Get ready for it. Magazine said every week I'm driving it and I want to buy it. I'm all ready to drive on it. Let me see you. Let me see you. That's it. That's it. I'm gonna be on one soldier. I'm ready. I'm ready. I wish I remember that thing coming up. Get ready for it. Magazine said every week I'm driving it and I want to buy it. I'm all ready to drive on it. Let me see you. Let me see you. That's it. That's it. I'm gonna be on one soldier. I'm ready. I'm ready. I wish I remember that thing coming up. Get ready for it. Magazine said every week I'm driving it and I want to buy it. I'm all ready to drive on it. Let me see you. Let me see you. That's it. That's it. I'm gonna be on one soldier. I'm ready. I'm ready. I wish I remember that thing coming up. Get ready for it. Magazine said every week I'm driving it and I want to buy it. I'm all ready to drive on it. Let me see you. Let me see you. That's it. That's it. I'm gonna be on one soldier. I'm ready. I'm ready. I wish I remember that thing coming up. Get ready for it. Magazine said every week I'm driving it and I want to buy it. I'm all ready to drive on it. Let me see you. Let me see you. That's it. That's it. I'm gonna be on one soldier. I'm ready. I'm ready. I wish I remember that thing coming up. Get ready for it. Magazine said every week I'm driving it and I want to buy it. I'm all ready to drive on it. Let me see you. Let me see you. That's it. That's it. I'm gonna be on one soldier. I'm ready. I'm ready. I wish I remember that thing coming up. Get ready for it. Magazine said every week I'm driving it and I want to buy it. I'm all ready to drive on it. Let me see you. Let me see you. That's it. That's it. I'm gonna be on one soldier. I'm ready. I'm ready. I wish I remember that thing coming up. Get ready for it. Magazine said every week I'm driving it and I want to buy it. I'm all ready to drive on it. Let me see you. Let me see you. That's it. That's it. I'm gonna be on one soldier. I'm ready. I'm ready. I wish I remember that thing coming up. Get ready for it. Magazine said every week I'm driving it and I want to buy it. I'm all ready to drive on it. Let me see you. Let me see you. That's it. That's it. I'm gonna be on one soldier. I'm ready. I'm ready. I wish I remember that thing coming up. Get ready for it. Magazine said every week I'm driving it and I want to buy it. I'm all ready to drive on it. Let me see you. Let me see you. That's it. That's it. I'm gonna be on one soldier. I'm ready. I'm ready. I wish I remember that thing coming up. Get ready for it. Magazine said every week I'm driving it and I want to buy it. I'm all ready to drive on it. Let me see you. Let me see you. That's it. That's it. I'm gonna be on one soldier. I'm ready. I'm ready. I wish I remember that thing coming up. Get ready for it. Magazine said every week I'm driving it and I want to buy it. I'm all ready to drive on it. Let me see you. Let me see you. That's it. That's it. I'm gonna be on one soldier. I'm ready. I'm ready. I wish I remember that thing coming up. Get ready for it. Magazine said every week I'm driving it and I want to buy it. I'm all ready to drive on it. Let me see you. Let me see you. That's it. That's it. I'm gonna be on one soldier. I'm ready. I'm ready. I wish I remember that thing coming up. Get ready for it. Magazine said every week I'm driving it and I want to buy it. I'm all ready to drive on it. Let me see you. Let me see you. That's it. That's it. I'm gonna be on one soldier. I'm ready. I'm ready. I wish I remember that thing coming up. Get ready for it. Magazine said every week I'm driving it and I want to buy it. I'm all ready to drive on it. Let me see you. Let me see you. That's it. That's it. I'm gonna be on one soldier. I'm ready. I'm ready. I wish I remember that thing coming up. Get ready for it. Magazine said every week I'm driving it and I want to buy it. I'm all ready to drive on it. I'm That's what you know. That's it. I'm gonna be your fucking soldier. I'm ready. I wish I remember that beach. Get ready for that magazine sale. Get ready for the week. I'm trying it and I want to try it. I'm all straight up travel. Let me see you. Let me see you. That's what you know. That's it. I'm gonna be your fucking soldier. I'm ready. I wish I remember that beach. Get ready for that magazine sale. Get ready for the week. I'm trying it and I want to try it. I'm all straight up travel. Let me see you. Let me see you. That's what you know. That's it. I'm gonna be your fucking soldier. I'm ready. I wish I remember that beach. Get ready for that magazine sale. Get ready for the week. I'm trying it and I want to try it. I'm all straight up travel. Let me see you. Let me see you. That's what you know. That's it. I'm gonna be your fucking soldier. I'm ready. I wish I remember that beach. Get ready for that magazine sale. Get ready for the week. I'm trying it and I want to try it. I'm all straight up travel. Let me see you. Let me see you. That's what you know. That's it. I'm gonna be your fucking soldier. I'm ready. I wish I remember that beach. Get ready for that magazine sale. Get ready for the week. I'm trying it and I want to try it. I'm all straight up travel. Let me see you. Let me see you. That's what you know. That's it. I'm gonna be your fucking soldier. I'm ready. I wish I remember that beach. Get ready for that magazine sale. Get ready for the week. I'm trying it and I want to try it. I'm all straight up travel. Let me see you. Let me see you. That's what you know. That's it. I'm gonna be your fucking soldier. I'm ready. I wish I remember that beach. Get ready for that magazine sale. Get ready for the week. I'm trying it and I want to try it. I'm all straight up travel. Let me see you. Let me see you. That's what you know. That's it. I'm gonna be your fucking soldier. I'm ready. I wish I remember that beach. Get ready for that magazine sale. Get ready for the week. I'm trying it and I want to try it. I'm all straight up travel. Let me see you. Let me see you. That's what you know. That's it. I'm gonna be your fucking soldier. I'm ready. I wish I remember that beach. Get ready for that magazine sale. Get ready for the week. I'm trying it and I want to try it. I'm all straight up travel. Let me see you. Let me see you. That's what you know. That's it. I'm gonna be your fucking soldier. I'm ready. I wish I remember that beach. Get ready for that magazine sale. Get ready for the week. I'm trying it and I want to try it. I'm all straight up travel. Let me see you. Let me see you. That's what you know. That's it. I'm gonna be your fucking soldier. I'm ready. I wish I remember that beach. Get ready for that magazine sale. Get ready for the week. I'm trying it and I want to try it. I'm all straight up travel. Let me see you. Let me see you. That's what you know. That's it. I'm gonna be your fucking soldier. I'm ready. I wish I remember that beach. Get ready for that magazine sale. Get ready for the week. I'm trying it and I want to try it. I'm all straight up travel. Let me see you. Let me see you. That's what you know. That's it. I'm gonna be your fucking soldier. I'm ready. I wish I remember that beach. Get ready for that